In this first subtopic, we'll uncover the deep pagan roots of Halloween. While today it's mostly seen as a fun celebration, Halloween has ancient spiritual connections, tracing back to the Celtic festival of Samhain. This tradition, observed in October, signified the end of the harvest and the beginning of winter, a time when the line between the living and spirit worlds was thought to blur. Let's explore how this celebration developed and influenced Halloween as we know it today.
Halloween originates from a Celtic tradition called Samhain, celebrated at the end of October to mark the start of winter. For the Celts, Samhain symbolized the closing of the harvest season and the onset of the dark half of the year, a time associated with shorter days and colder weather. During Samhain, people believed that the veil between the living and the dead grew thin, allowing spirits to cross over. According to Celtic belief, Samhain was a night when the spirits of deceased loved ones returned to visit their families. Offerings such as food and drink were left outside homes to welcome these spirits or to prevent them from causing trouble. This act of honoring the dead while protecting the living is a concept that influenced many aspects of Halloween. During Samhain, massive bonfires were lit on hilltops as protective measures against malevolent spirits. The fire's light was thought to ward off evil and provide warmth during the darkening days of early winter. This tradition has evolved into the Halloween custom of lighting jack-o'-lanterns, originally designed to ward off spirits. Another Celtic practice was wearing costumes and masks to trick wandering spirits. People believed that if they dressed as ghosts or creatures, spirits would mistake them for fellow spirits and leave them alone. This custom of wearing disguises laid the groundwork for Halloween costumes and masks, transforming into the trick-or-treat traditions we see today. As Christianity spread through Europe, the Catholic Church sought to replace pagan rituals with Christian observances. To do this, they established All Saints' Day on November 1st as a holy day to honor saints and martyrs, attempting to redirect the focus of Samhain traditions. This approach allowed some aspects of Samhain to continue, albeit under new, Christianized meaning. The establishment of All Saints' Day led to the night before becoming known as All Hallows' Eve, later shortened to Halloween. This name transition reflects the blending of pagan Samhain practices with Christian traditions, as the festival moved from honoring spirits to a more secular celebration in later centuries. As Halloween spread across Europe and into North America, new customs like trick-or-treating, pumpkin carving, and wearing elaborate costumes were added to the celebration. Over time, Halloween became more of a cultural event than a spiritual one, although the symbols and origins remain rooted in ancient beliefs. Today, Halloween is widely seen as a festive holiday filled with costumes, candy, and fun. However, the core symbols of Halloween, such as ghosts, witches, and jack-o'-lanterns, still echo the ancient beliefs surrounding the spirit world. For those aware of its origins, Halloween represents a blend of cultural celebration and spiritual symbolism, with roots reaching back to the rituals of Samhain. While Halloween as we know it developed primarily in Western cultures, similar festivals exist worldwide. For example, Mexico's Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, also honors the spirits of the deceased, although with a distinct cultural approach. These global traditions show a universal theme of remembrance and respect for the dead, revealing a shared human desire to connect with those who have passed on. With the passage of time, Halloween has become less about its spiritual origins and more about community and fun. The holiday has been secularized, especially in countries like the United States, where Halloween is now primarily an opportunity for parties, costumes, and creativity. Yet, even as it shifts away from its original meaning, Halloween retains some of its spiritual undertones. Learning about the origins of Halloween helps us appreciate the rich history behind the holiday. Recognizing Halloween's blend of cultural and spiritual elements enables us to view it through a different lens, understanding that what may appear as harmless fun has deep-rooted meanings and symbols. Samhain began as a sacred time for the Celts, marking the end of the harvest and a connection to the spirit world. As this festival transformed into Halloween, many original elements persisted, such as honoring the dead and warding off evil. By understanding Samhain's role, we can better appreciate how Halloween's spiritual legacy remains relevant, even as it adapts to modern contexts. In uncovering the ancient origins of Halloween, we find a holiday steeped in deep beliefs, spiritual practices, and a reverence for the unseen. Though Halloween has changed and adapted across centuries, it still carries with it the echoes of its roots in Samhain. As we explore the next topics, we'll examine how this legacy aligns or clashes with biblical perspectives and how this awareness can guide us in deciding how we approach Halloween today. In this section, we'll explore the origins of some of Halloween's most recognizable traditions, costumes, trick-or-treating, and carved pumpkins, and how these customs have transformed over time. While often seen as fun activities today, these traditions have deep-rooted spiritual connections that date back centuries, reflecting ancient beliefs and practices related to the supernatural. Let's look at how these customs originated and why understanding them adds insight into what Halloween symbolizes. The tradition of wearing costumes on Halloween traces back to ancient Celtic rituals. During Samhain, people believed that the veil between the living and the dead was thin, allowing spirits to cross over. To avoid being recognized or harmed by these spirits, people dressed in costumes or wore masks to blend in with them. The goal was to make spirits think they were among their own, providing a sort of supernatural camouflage for the wearer. The practice of going door to door for treats also has ancient roots. In Celtic times, food and drink were often left outside homes to appease wandering spirits and keep them from causing harm. Later, during the medieval period, people in Europe began to go from house to house in costume, offering prayers for the deceased in exchange for food. This practice evolved into Samhain, a custom that directly influenced what we know today as trick-or-treating. Carving jack-o'-lanterns, a staple of modern Halloween decor, originated in Britain, where people carved faces into turnips to scare away evil spirits. When the custom made its way to America, pumpkins became the preferred choice due to their availability and ease of carving. These lanterns were placed outside homes to protect against malevolent forces, with their eerie glow serving as a warning to any spirits passing by. Halloween decorations and costumes often include witches, ghosts, vampires, and other supernatural beings. These symbols have a long-standing association with the spirit world and supernatural fears. Historically, people believed that these creatures were either spirits or had the ability to interact with spirits, reinforcing Halloween's connection to the supernatural. As Halloween made its way through Europe, it began to incorporate elements from Christian beliefs. During the Middle Ages, All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day were introduced on November 1st and 2nd, leading people to perform rituals like going door to door and praying for the dead in exchange for food or money. These practices merged with the older pagan customs, blending Christian and Celtic elements into the Halloween we recognize today. Originally, turnips were carved in Britain as a way to honor the dead or scare off spirits. But when the tradition moved to North America, pumpkins, which were more abundant and easier to carve, replaced turnips. The pumpkin, now a Halloween staple, became a symbol of protection and has since evolved into an essential part of Halloween decor. Light has always played a symbolic role in Halloween's origins. Candles and lanterns were lit both as a means to welcome the spirits of ancestors and to keep away harmful entities. Lighting candles in windows or carrying lanterns was believed to guide lost souls or keep evil away, highlighting Halloween's underlying connection to the afterlife. Today, Halloween costumes, trick-or-treating, and jack-o'-lanterns are largely seen as fun and festive. However, knowing their spiritual roots gives us a new perspective. These customs remind us that Halloween's origins are not just about entertainment. They reflect ancient beliefs about the spirit world and human attempts to connect with or protect themselves from the supernatural. This awareness offers a deeper understanding of what Halloween represents, even in modern times. Understanding Halloween's customs reveals how deeply rooted this celebration is in ancient spiritual beliefs. What may seem like simple fun today, costumes, trick-or-treating, and pumpkin carving, originated from practices meant to protect people from or connect with the spirit world. As we continue exploring Halloween's evolution, we'll consider how these customs align with or differ from biblical perspectives and what they mean for us today. In this section, we'll delve into the Bible's perspective on interacting with the spirit world and the occult. Halloween's history is tied to beliefs about spirits, ghosts, and supernatural beings. But what does the Bible say about these ideas? From consulting the dead to participating in traditions linked to the spirit world, Scripture provides clear guidance on these matters. Let's examine the biblical view and how it informs a Christian's approach to Halloween. Throughout the Bible, there are numerous warnings against engaging in practices that involve spirits or the occult. In Deuteronomy 18 verses 10 to 12, God commands his people not to consult spirits, engage in divination, or attempt to contact the dead. Such actions were seen as detestable and contrary to God's will, as they represented a reliance on supernatural forces outside of God's guidance. According to the Bible, the dead are not conscious and cannot communicate with the living. Ecclesiastes 9 verse 5 states, "The dead know nothing," countering the belief that spirits of the deceased can influence the living. This understanding contrasts sharply with Halloween's origins, where interactions with the dead were common. The Bible describes the existence of evil spirits, warning believers to avoid contact with them. Ephesians 6 verse 12 reminds us that our struggles are against the powers of this dark world and against the spiritual forces of evil. Engaging in practices that invite interaction with spirits, as some Halloween traditions do, can open doors to spiritual harm. Jesus emphasized the importance of avoiding deception, particularly from false or misleading spiritual influences. In Matthew 24 verse 24, he warns of false prophets and spirits that may try to mislead people. Halloween's traditions can sometimes blur lines, presenting the occult as entertaining or harmless, which may lead to misunderstandings about the Bible's stance on such matters. People are often drawn to supernatural themes out of curiosity or fascination with the unknown. However, the Bible cautions believers to guard their hearts against such attractions, as they can easily lead one away from faith. Leviticus 19 verse 31 explicitly warns against consulting mediums, saying, "Do not turn to mediums or seek out spiritists, for you will be defiled by them." The Bible advises staying grounded in God's truth, rather than seeking answers from the spirit world. Some Halloween customs, like using Ouija boards or dressing up as supernatural beings, may seem like harmless fun, but the Bible encourages believers to avoid even the appearance of engaging with evil forces. 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 22 advises Christians to abstain from every form of evil. This means not only avoiding actual spiritism, but also distancing oneself from activities that mimic it. Believers are called to live differently, avoiding practices that conflict with biblical principles. Halloween customs often promote themes that celebrate or trivialize the spirit world, which conflicts with the Bible's advice to stay separate from such influences. Romans 12 verse 2 urges Christians, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, Halloween can be a test of one's commitment to biblical principles. Understanding God's clear stance against Spiritism and occult practices encourages Christians to make choices that honor their faith. By choosing to avoid Halloween activities tied to the occult, believers could draw closer to God and set an example for others. The Bible provides clear guidance against interacting with spirits or engaging in occult practices, cautioning believers to rely solely on God's guidance. Halloween's roots in the supernatural and its modern traditions reflect ideas that are incompatible with biblical teachings. By choosing to honor God's principles, we can confidently navigate this season with clarity and conviction. As we continue to explore Halloween, an important question arises. Is celebrating Halloween simply a cultural activity, or does it reflect deeper spiritual beliefs? Many see Halloween as harmless fun, disconnected from its origins. However, understanding the biblical perspective on participating in customs with spiritual or occult backgrounds gives us insight into how we approach Halloween. Let's explore this distinction between culture and belief, and why it might be more significant than it seems. Halloween has transformed over time, becoming a highly commercialized and widely accepted cultural holiday. But unlike other secular holidays, Halloween's themes of death, spirits, and the occult still tie it to its original spiritual practices. For Christians, it's essential to discern whether participating in these activities aligns with their beliefs or compromises their faith. The Bible frequently cautions believers against mixing faith with practices rooted in other beliefs. In 2 Corinthians 6 verse 14, Paul advises Christians to avoid being unequally yoked with unbelievers, asking, "What fellowship can light have with darkness?" This principle highlights the importance of living a life set apart, especially regarding activities with spiritually questionable roots. Many Halloween traditions may appear harmless, but some cultural practices subtly influence people's beliefs and attitudes. The Bible reminds believers to guard their hearts, as in Proverbs 4 verse 23, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." This verse encourages Christians to be mindful of influences that might seem trivial but could affect their faith over time. Although dressing in costumes or going to Halloween parties may seem minor, they can signal a person's comfort with ideas that contradict their faith. For example, costumes that mimic ghosts, witches, or monsters, symbols of the spirit world, can send mixed messages. 1 Corinthians 10 verse 31 reminds us, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God." Christians are encouraged to consider how even small actions reflect their beliefs. For many, Halloween is an innocent holiday, especially for children who enjoy costumes and candy. However, biblical principles encourage us to discern between harmless fun and traditions that may contradict our faith values. Philippians 4 verse 8 urges believers to focus on whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right. This mindset helps us consider if Halloween's themes truly align with our beliefs or if they're better left aside. Halloween may seem secular, but engaging with its customs could blur the lines between cultural participation and spiritual compromise. Believers are encouraged to live as salt and light in the world, representing faith in all aspects of life. By making choices aligned with their beliefs, Christians can set a positive example and remain spiritually distinct. Cultural traditions versus spiritual convictions. Where's the line? For some, Halloween may feel like any other holiday, but understanding its origins and spiritual implications can affect one's decision to participate. Romans 14 verse 5 encourages Christians to be fully convinced in their own mind about the choices they make. In evaluating Halloween, Christians can reflect on their personal convictions and how they align with their faith. Ultimately, each Christian must decide how to approach Halloween based on their understanding of biblical principles. By balancing cultural participation with a commitment to their faith, believers can make decisions that honor God while respecting their personal beliefs. This approach allows each individual to live out their faith with clarity and integrity. Halloween is more than just a cultural event. Its roots and traditions carry significant spiritual implications. By examining the difference between cultural norms and personal beliefs, Christians can make informed choices that align with biblical teachings. As we move forward, we'll explore how this awareness influences actions and guides us in maintaining a faith-centered life. For many, Halloween is simply a festive time filled with costumes, candy, and fun. But understanding the historical roots and spiritual connections behind the holiday offers a deeper perspective. As Christians, being aware of Halloween's origins helps us make conscious, faith-based decisions about participation. In this subtopic, we'll discuss why it matters to know Halloween's background and how this knowledge influences our approach to the holiday. By knowing the origins of Halloween, we become aware of the deeper meanings behind its customs. Awareness equips us to make informed choices that honor our beliefs. For example, if we recognize that Halloween's history is rooted in Spiritism, we may reconsider engaging in activities that could conflict with biblical values. The Bible encourages believers to be wise as serpents and innocent as doves, reminding us to be discerning. Knowing Halloween's background allows us to consider whether participating aligns with biblical teachings. This knowledge serves as a guide for making choices that reflect our commitment to faith. Halloween's practices today may seem different from their ancient roots, but the spiritual connections still linger. Elements like costumes, trick-or-treating, and jack-o'-lanterns have historical ties to pagan beliefs. By understanding these origins, we can see how Halloween customs are linked to past spiritual practices, reminding us to consider how these traditions align with our values. Ephesians 5 verses 15 to 16 instructs us to be very careful, then, how you live, not as unwise but as wise, making the most of every opportunity. By applying discernment, we can assess which Halloween activities align with biblical principles. Recognizing Halloween's history encourages us to approach it with care, choosing wisely which traditions to participate in, if any. When we understand Halloween's origins, we can evaluate whether our participation aligns with our commitment to God. Romans 14 verse 23 reminds us that everything that does not come from faith is sin. This means that if our participation in Halloween causes internal conflict or goes against our faith, it's wise to reconsider involvement. Sharing our understanding of Halloween's origins can help others make their own informed choices. Friends, family, or even our children may benefit from learning about Halloween's history, enabling them to approach it from a place of knowledge rather than mere tradition. This approach fosters conversations about faith and personal convictions. Knowing the history behind Halloween gives us a clear foundation to stand on. As we build spiritual integrity, we can confidently make choices that honor God's standards, avoiding activities that conflict with our beliefs. Awareness of Halloween's origins strengthens our faith, ensuring that our actions align with our spiritual convictions. Understanding Halloween's background allows us to act in ways that align with our beliefs. When we make faith-based decisions, we set an example for others, showing that our actions are guided by thoughtful understanding and spiritual conviction. This commitment not only reflects our faith, but also encourages others to consider their choices. Learning about Halloween's origins equips us to make informed, faith-based decisions. Rather than simply following cultural norms, understanding Halloween's background helps us reflect on our participation and make choices that align with biblical teachings. As we move into our final subtopic, We'll explore how each of these insights can guide us in deciding how to celebrate or not celebrate Halloween as believers. After exploring Halloween's origins, customs, and spiritual implications, many Christians are left wondering, how should I personally approach Halloween? Making faith-based decisions requires thoughtful reflection and commitment to align our actions with God's principles. In this final subtopic, we'll look at practical steps for making choices about Halloween, guided by our faith and understanding of biblical teachings. Every believer's journey is unique, and personal convictions play a significant role in making decisions about Halloween. Romans 14 verse 5 encourages us to be fully convinced in our own mind about our choices. By studying Scripture and understanding Halloween's background, we can feel more confident in making decisions that reflect our personal convictions and align with God's will. Prayer is essential when we're faced with choices that require discernment. By asking God for wisdom and guidance, we can better understand His will for us. James 1 verse 5 reminds us that God gives wisdom to those who ask. Taking time to pray about whether to participate in Halloween allows us to invite God's guidance into our decision. For some, choosing not to participate in Halloween altogether is the best way to honor their faith. Others may feel comfortable engaging in certain aspects, like family-friendly gatherings that avoid spiritual or occult themes. Setting boundaries that align with biblical values helps ensure that our actions reflect our commitment to God. 1 Corinthians 10 verse 31 encourages believers to do it all for the glory of God. For families or communities seeking an alternative to Halloween, organizing faith-centered gatherings can offer a wholesome way to enjoy fellowship without compromising beliefs. Hosting events focused on gratitude, harvest, or fall festivities allows Christians to engage with friends and family in a positive way. These alternatives can be both fun and meaningful. For some Christians, Halloween presents an opportunity to witness to others. By sharing the biblical perspective on spiritism, life after death, or faith-centered living, believers can use Halloween as a moment to connect with neighbors and friends. Colossians 4 verse 5 encourages believers to make the most of every opportunity, reminding us that every moment can be used to reflect God's love. When friends or family ask why we choose not to celebrate Halloween, explaining our decision with grace can be a powerful testimony. Rather than judging others' choices, sharing our personal convictions and biblical reasoning in a kind manner shows respect and demonstrates how we live out our faith. 1 Peter 3 verse 15 encourages us to always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks with gentleness and respect. As Christians, each decision we make shapes our spiritual journey. Reflecting on our choices regarding Halloween allows us to evaluate if they align with our values. 2 Corinthians 13 verse 5 encourages believers to examine yourselves to see whether you are in the faith. This reflection strengthens our commitment to a life that honors God and keeps us focused on living out our beliefs daily. By sharing our experiences and insights, we can support others in making their own faith-based decisions. Encouraging one another builds a sense of community and helps others feel confident in living out their convictions. Hebrews 10 verses 24 to 25 reminds us to encourage one another and to support each other in love and good deeds. Making faith-based decisions about Halloween involves reflection, prayer, a commitment to living in line with biblical principles. By seeking God's guidance, setting personal boundaries, and encouraging others, we can approach Halloween with clarity and confidence. As we choose to align our actions with our faith, we demonstrate a life rooted in conviction and a desire to honor God above all. If you like biblical videos, don't forget to subscribe for more daily content.